Welcome back. This is Stef from Cold Blooded Freaks, and in today's episode, we are going to talk about some animals that we have wanted for quite some time now. Being a reptile keeper, I feel like there's always reptiles out there that you're interested in having, might eventually be able to keep on your own and breed maybe, or just want as a pet. So we are going over our top 5 that we were looking into having eventually one day. But right now, the price range for them is just a little bit too high for us. But let's get to those animals. Before we get to number 1, I feel like everybody that has had reptiles in their life, whether they're breeding just a specific type of snake or a specific type of gecko or lizard, tend to dabble a little bit in other exotics as well. I feel like that's kind of the name of the game. That's kind of what makes us fall in love with these reptiles to begin with, is the variety that is out there. And these are some of my favorite animals that I have been kind of creeping on throughout the years, and some of them are very new to the hobby and new to being available to the hobby. So I'm very excited to show you some of these animals. Number 1 is definitely a well-known animal. It is a Burmese python. But in recent years, pied burms have been available. And now they are almost readily available to a degree. There is a lot of regular pied burms and albino pied burms that are becoming readily available on the market, but there's also genetic combinations of pied burms that are stunning, absolutely beautiful looking animals, and those are the ones that have caught my eye. I personally love Burmese pythons. I don't necessarily have the vast amount of room to keep them, but I do tend to keep at least one as a pet. And the pied burm is on my list of one of the ones that I want as a pet. But right now, their price range is still a little outside of what I'm comfortable paying for a pet, considering I just want it. I don't want to breed it. I just want to have a male pied burm that I think has a good ratio of color to white, since when that animal gets very large, it's going to be even cooler looking with that white coloration with the pattern. I just can't wait to eventually get one, and I think that might be happening in the near future. The prices have gone down, but they're still a little high for me, but I'm also considering getting ones that have other genetic combinations in them, but those ones tend to be closer to the $5,000 range as of right now. So they're not quite in my budget, but I would love to know if any of you guys are interested in pied burms or even own some, because I would love to see pictures. Moving on to our second pick. This is also a snake, but this one is a colubrate. This specific colubrate gets very long and large and is technically rear fang venomous. We are talking about the blue baron racers. There are other types of racers out there that are more, they're kind of brown, they can be green, almost like a turquoise in color, but we really have been looking for a true blue, very vibrant, high quality blue baron racer. Though they are rear fang venomous, and they can be a little nippy because they do not have an issue eating normally. These guys love to eat just about anything. They're not usually finicky eaters, but with that said, that means that you could definitely get bit. And them being rear fang venomous doesn't mean that you're going to lose a finger or have a extreme allergic reaction, but you can get some necrosis of your skin depending on how bad the bite is and things like that. So there's always, of course, that concern, but the animals themselves are beautiful, and you can have them in awesome enclosures. They do need a bigger enclosure since they are more of an arboreal species, and they're quite long. So they're not something that you can keep in a rack system or something like that. So you would need to have a larger amount of space for them. So that's another reason why we don't necessarily have one right now, because we would like to do this once our facility is able to expand a bit. But it is a dream of ours to have one of these guys, and I think they're just super neat with their cute little tips to their nose. I just find them very interesting little creatures, and they're just stunningly beautiful. Moving on to our number 3 pick, and this is what is called a Congotus Stumbara. And Frank Payne with Living Art is absolutely one of my all-time most respected reptile keepers in the industry that I have literally probably creeped on since I was very young. And he has these beautiful creatures, and he has been reproducing them very successfully. They seem to be pretty prolific from what I'm seeing, and they recently came onto the industry, if you will, in the last few years. And they're very unique patterns and almost like this pokey scale camouflage that's going on with them, and their very friendly personalities, I think, are making them so sought after in the reptile industry. And not to mention their care and their enclosure size and everything about them. I just think that they're very sought after right now, and that there's many people actually successfully breeding them in captivity. And I think that that's a good thing and a bad thing. When I first saw these out for sale, they were quite expensive for a pair. And in the last year, they've really come down because I know that Frank Payne has had a bunch of them successfully produce offspring, and then he was selling those, and then other breeders are now successfully producing babies. So now there's a couple people that are producing them pretty regularly and successfully. So there's multiple available on the market now, where just last year there might have been a couple available. Now there's, I would say, at least half a dozen or more available, and there's pairs available. But they're very interesting little creatures. They can develop these personalities that they actually seem to like you. And in the reptile world, as a keeper, there's some animals that we own that, let's be honest, they tolerate us. They don't necessarily look forward to us hanging out with them all the time. But these guys almost get excited when you come up to their enclosure and offer them food. And you can open up their enclosure, they can run out onto your hand, and they're not very flighty. And they're just super neat. They don't require a lot of heat. They don't require a crazy large enclosure. They can be kept in a male and female enclosure and be totally fine. And it can be heavily planted to however you like it. So it's just a very unique species, and I would love to have them, and it looks like it might be a possibility since the costs are coming down on them. Moving on to our number 4. This is the Cloud Forest Agama. These guys are so cool looking, especially the males. They do show off these beautiful colorations that kind of range from almost like a bluish turquoise with these black stripes going down. And they have this like super neat, almost like angry face. And I think they're so cool. And they're a little bit bigger of a lizard. They're not giant by any means, but they're a little bit bigger. The availability with these guys is very scarce. I actually saw my first pair available in a reptile expo this year, and all I wanted to do was take them home. But I knew the realisticness of it is that their enclosures need to be significantly larger than something that I could fit currently. Again, this would be something that I would be interested in getting down the line when our facility is a little bit bigger. I feel like we're going to fill that facility very quickly, it sounds like. But anyway, we would need a very large enclosure. It doesn't have to be necessarily giant, but it's going to have to be tall and wide. These guys do need a lot of space, and they are being bred successfully in captivity, but there's not a lot of people working with them. The price tag for a pair is quite steep right now, and you're usually not going to be getting a pair that's already established. You're going to be getting a very young pair and having to grow them up, and you probably most likely have to grow them up separately just in the beginning, just so that you don't have any issues going on. But they are a very unique species. They're very cool. They do require different lighting and specific temperatures. So they're a little bit more finicky when it comes to care, but they're awesome looking creatures. They can be handled, but it's more of a if they are willing to be handled, because they can be a little bit faster. But once they are adapted to you and kind of understand your behaviors and that you're not going to hurt them, they are willing to come out and kind of explore you a little bit as well. So that kind of is cool to me, because I like having animals as pets that I can hold. If I can't necessarily hold it, I might not necessarily want it as much. I don't really necessarily like a reptile that's more of a just stare at it kind of reptile. I like being able to hold it, and these guys are one of those. And I just think that they are underrated, and hopefully more people start breeding them soon because they are quite unique. Moving on to our fifth. And now this is more of a pipe dream, I feel like, for me, because I think that these guys they've been successfully bred in captivity, but it's not exactly going smooth as of yet. There's not a lot of people working with them. But we are talking about the thorny-tailed iguana. These guys are super vibrant greens, these emerald greens and these rich black colorations, and they're just absolutely beautiful looking animals. They're not a large iguana. They do like to eat insects, so they're eating ants and crickets and things like that. So their food isn't necessarily the issue. It's just that we haven't necessarily mastered keeping them in captivity and getting them to breed successfully. I feel in the reptile world, iguanas themselves have a lot. We still have a lot to learn about certain species. I know one of the species that I love as well that's very similar, not necessarily in color, but kind of look, is the Yucatan spiny-tailed iguanas. They are successfully being bred in captivity, just not in large quantities as of yet. So they're still holding their value out there. But these guys, I honestly think they're going to hold their value for a very long time, since there is, one, not a lot of people breeding them, but it is happening. And two, getting a pair from different breeders might be very hard to do. So as of right now. So hopefully, fingers crossed, something maybe very much down the line, but I would absolutely love to see these guys in person. If you guys haven't checked them out, you should do some research because they are beautiful little dudes. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. In the comments, I want to know if any of you guys have or agree with me on some of these more rare exotics, if you will. I also want to know, if you don't agree with me on my picks, what are yours? Because I love to hear what people are interested in having, because the reptile industry is always evolving. There's always different animals coming out that aren't necessarily known very much about having in captivity and reproducing them, and some animals being endangered. We are the important step to learning about how to make them reproduce in captivity so that we're able to save the numbers that are in the wild and maybe even help the populations that are in the wild. So I feel like when it comes to owning reptiles, it's not just necessarily for us, but it is also to help the rest of the ecosystems out there. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.